Chair, it's 5:30 if you'd like to get started.
Thank you, Callie. I will call this meeting to order. Please call the roll and verify the presence of a quorum.
Will do. Kayla Bailey,
Present.
Bryce Chisholm,
Here.
Kathleen Arends, absent at this time. Mayumi Doyama,
Present.
Stephen York, absent at this time. Jessica Bullard Nolan, Lindsay Darrow, absent at this time. Megan Dettenmeyer, absent at this time. Corey Fredericks,
Present.
Cami LeRae,
Present.
Abby Lugtug. Also present is Councilmember Devin Reese and Staff Liaison Callie Shy. With that, we have a quorum of the Ward 5 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Fantastic. Let's
Callie, I'm here as well.
Sorry, Denny. Denny Martindale is also present.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to item A2, opening for public comment. Do we have any public comment?
I do not have anything registered, but I'll read the language into the record. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. The NAB may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. I do not have any public comment registered in person. We do not have anyone online with their hand raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we have no public comment, so we will proceed to item A3. Staff Liaison Callie, are there any changes to our current agenda?
We do have some changes. We're going to move through item A4, then item A5. Then we're going to jump to business item C1. Then we will move on to the development projects out of order. So we'll do B3, then B1, then B2. We'll come back to the staff liaison report A6, and then we'll do D, E, and F.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the 12/9/25 agenda with the identified changes?
Jessica Bullard Nolan for the record. I motion to approve.
Okay.
Bryce Chisholm, second.
Awesome. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. The next item we have today is item A4, approval of the minutes. We have August 12th and October 14th meeting minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes?
Want to note for the board, for the October 14th minutes, there were some minor spelling errors. Those have been updated with the revised set of minutes. So those are the ones to approve tonight.
Awesome.
Just some spelling changes.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the August 12th meeting minutes? Okay,
Cami LeRae for the record. Motion to approve.
thank you.
Bryce Chisholm, second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion passes. May I get a motion to approve the October 14th, 2025 minutes?
Corey Fredericks for the record. I motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Bryce Chisholm, second.
Thank you, Bryce. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you. The next item is item A5, the council liaison report. Councilmember Reese.
Hello, good evening, and thank you. Thank you for being here. It's always a privilege to be in front of all of you. I don't have much to say this evening except for two things. One is I hope that you had the opportunity to see our employee art show in the lobby. It's really tremendous, and it's the opportunity for our employees and their children and family members to display their art, and it's quite incredible. So if you have a chance, either if you had a chance on the way in or if you have a chance on the way out, please check it out. And then the other thing is just happy holidays. It's a busy time of year, so I appreciate you all being here tonight, but it's also a very special time of year, so hopefully you'll have the opportunity to spend time with friends and family near or far, enjoying the holiday season. So thank you so much, and I'll be excited to hear your evening tonight. Any
Thank you.
questions for me about what's going on in the ward? Anything like that? You saw something and burning questions? Mr. Martindale.
There's a lot of activity around Robb Drive and Charlins and the end of Robb Drive, a lot of dirt being moved.
Yeah, it's
and
exciting.
There's a lot of questions going around.
What questions do you have?
Hopefully it's not a truck stop.
It's not a truck stop. It's not, the zoning is not appropriate for a truck stop. So they can put that rumor to bed. That area is all planned and has been zoned for some time. And they're just doing all the site infrastructure work. So it's grading, infrastructure for sewer, streets, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a while to be able to get the area over there across the way done. But it's primarily two things. It's residential. So there's a residential component. Some of the farthest to the east parts are that beautiful plateau that's there. It's one of the last plateaus over there. That'll be single family residential. And then there are plans approved there, tentative maps for some multifamily, so apartments. And then the areas that would be closest to the freeway are intended to be small commercial. So think gas station, Starbucks. The rumor is, and you never know what to believe until it happens, that a Trader Joe's, a Costco, and a Target are looking at that area. But of course, it has to be developed, and the developers who own it are, one of the developers developed Somerset. So it's an area that has long been planned for development. So we'll see. It's probably a 7-year project. Yeah. There's another smaller project, but as exciting to some, that's a small corner parcel at Charlins and Robb, which is a mini storage. Very less intense use that was designed to be there. And so it came to council maybe 5 years ago or so, as I recall. And that is, worked with the neighbors to find some buffering and do some things with the lights to make sure that it wasn't impacting the neighbors who are immediately behind it. So that's what's going on there. Great questions, though. You will see all of those projects as they come through, right? Because all those are building permits, they're map applications. So all the things that will go there eventually, you'll see them first.
Awesome. Any more questions for Councilmember Reese? Thank you, Councilmember Reese. The next item is A6, the staff liaison report. Staff liaison Callie?
Chair, we're going to move that to after.
Oh, A6. My apologies.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, we're going to move to item C1.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on your agenda tonight. I'm Jackie Bryant, the city manager for the city of Reno, and I'm thrilled to be here. We have been working on a variety of education initiatives, and you will get to hear one of them this evening, what we refer to as CTAX. It's a short term for consolidated tax. With me is Jason Guattari. He is our urban economist. He helps build out these presentations. He helps us answer a lot of economic questions that might arise through the course of a day. And so he's online for any specific questions that you may have about economics that I'm not able to answer. We don't want to leave any questions unanswered. So with that, I'm going to jump right in. I like to have questions answered as we go. So please don't hesitate to say, hey, I got a question about that, or can you repeat it, or go back and do it again. We've been doing this for almost a year now, so we can sometimes forget that we need to start at a simpler level. So with that, I'd like to kick it off. Okay, so the first question you're going is, what is the CTAX? So CTAX is short for consolidated tax. That is 6 different taxes that we're going to talk about in depth through the presentation that were established by the legislature in 1997. As a reminder, taxing authority in the state of Nevada only comes from the legislature. We cannot do anything as a city that the legislature does not first tell us that we can do. We are a Dillon's rule state, not a home rule state. So a lot of times people come up and go, why don't you just do this? Well, unless the legislature has said, yes, you can do this, we can't do it. In this case, the legislature designed 6 different taxes. We're going to put them all in a bucket and talk about each one known as consolidated tax. It began in the late 70s, early 90s, around trying to solve some problems around property tax. People were paying too much in property tax, or so they felt. So they wanted to mitigate that, and they did what's called the tax shift of 1981. You can geek out on this for quite some time. We can give you materials if you want to read it. We're not going to go into it a whole lot, but the result was the 6 consolidated taxes and the distribution that we have today. I like to start with 3 true-false questions. And there is your answer to the question of, do local governments receive all of the tax revenue from all components of C-Tax? And the answer is no, we don't. You're going to see how we go through where all this money goes. If you buy something in Washoe County, does the sales tax revenue come back to Washoe County? And the answer is generally yes. Generally, where you buy it, if you buy it in person, the sales tax revenue comes back to the county. However, it does not necessarily go back to the city of origin. This is a county-specific provision that the legislature set up, again, way back when. It doesn't come back to the city of Reno. That's a mistake that people often make. So why do we care about it? Well, we care very much about it because it's a third of our budget. The revenue that the city of Reno receives from the consolidated taxes on an annual basis makes up a third of our general fund budget. We're not talking sewer fund. We're not talking any business enterprise fund. We are talking about the general fund. The second you'll see is property tax, and I'll come back and talk to you about property tax in a few months. The same is true for Sparks. A little bit higher, but it's still their number 1 source of revenue. Interestingly, for Washoe County, it's the second largest source of revenue. The highest source of revenue for Washoe County is property tax. Over half of their revenue comes from property tax. So why should you care about C-Tax? Well, it pays for the things that we don't charge for. Your police, your fire, code enforcement, planning review, finance, all the things that we don't have a direct fee for a service, that's what your general tax goes in to pay for. And the same is true for Washoe County. County provides services that the cities in Washoe County don't provide. They pay for the library. They pay for the medical examiner. They pay for public defender, district attorney. Their general fund supports these services. So now we're going to talk about the different components of C-Tax. There are 6. 2 of the 6 are what you're probably very familiar with, which is sales tax. The first is liquor tax, cigarette, governmental services tax, that's when you register your car. Real property transfer tax, that's when you sell your house. There's going to be a real property transfer tax. And then there are 2 that are sales tax. And we're going to go through each one of these in more detail. So what is the liquor tax? The liquor tax is a tax paid by a wholesaler. ABC Whiskey Company, Tennessee, drives a truckload of liquor bottles here, whiskey, and they sell them. They're going to pay a tax of $3.60 per gallon. Now, when you look at the bottom, each slide's going to be the same, so we're going to go through this for each one. You'll get familiar with it. At the bottom, you'll see that that 1 gallon payment by the wholesaler is $3.60. By the way, wine and beer don't count. It has to be 22% alcohol content or more for this wholesale tax to apply. When you look at how is that $3.60 divvied up, 50 cents is going to go into what we're going to call the C-Tax bucket. I like to describe it as we're going to make a stew. We're going to put all the things in the crock pot, and then we're going to divvy them out. And right now we're putting the items in. First thing we're going to do is put in 50 cents. I'm going to note for you that $2.95 goes to the state general fund, and 15 cents goes to the state liquor fund. The cigarette tax has the same construct. It's paid by the wholesaler on every pack of cigarettes. It's $1.80. Of that $1.80, $1.70 goes to the state general fund, and 10 cents goes into our C-Tax stew with the liquor tax. The GST is what you pay when you register your car. The amount that you pay is dependent on the value of your car at the time of payment. On a $30,000 car, That amount will be $420. Of that $420, $206 will go into our stew. The difference goes to K-12 education, State Highway Fund, DMV Collection Commission, again, all established by the legislature. The RPTT is $2.05 per $500 of a sales price. So if we assume you're selling a piece of land that is worth $500, the tax is going to be $2.05. On that, 55 cents goes into the C-tax bucket with the other three items, and you're going to see how the rest is distributed. Now we're going to talk about the two sales tax. The first is referred to as the basic city county relief tax. That was the first one. And what it said was that of the sales tax price, roughly 6% in this case, will go towards C-tax. So in Washoe County, 8.265%, let's round that up to $8.27 per $100, is going to be your sales tax, right? Of that, 0.5 is the BCCRT that's going to go into the C-tax bucket. The difference, 2% of that, is going to go into the state general fund. Over 3% goes to K-12 education managed by the state. There's a variety of little bit of other uses, but for purposes of this conversation, we need to understand that 0.5 is attributed to the BCCRT. And then here comes the supplemental. At some point in time, there was not enough money to fund all the local governments. And so the legislature implemented what we call the SCCRT. It's sales tax number 2. It's higher than the basic because the basic wasn't covering the services. It's 1.75%. When you add the two together, 2.25% of the sales price goes towards C-tax. In Washoe County, with an 8.27 sales tax rate, that's roughly 27% that goes into the C-tax bucket. Tracking? Okay. Before I show you how that money is attributed and then distributed to the various entities, we're going to talk about what is taxable. Not everything is taxable. And in fact, in Nevada, your services are generally not. In a lot of states, if you go get a haircut, you're going to pay a tax on that. If you go get your car washed, you're going to pay a tax on that. We have no taxes on services. We also, the legislature has decided that there are certain items that shouldn't be taxed for various policy reasons. You can see those on the right. Everything on the left is not a complete list of taxable sales, but it's kind of a common list. Generally, you go buy groceries, you're not going to pay taxes unless they're pre-packaged groceries. So that's just kind of the policy decision that the state has made. But it is an important distinction to understand that when you pay something or that there's not revenue coming in on every purchase in the state of Nevada. So let's talk about what each of these 6 generates in revenue. The chart demonstrates 68% of the revenue comes from that supplemental sales tax number 2, the one they had to implement to generate some more revenue, and they were very successful. The second highest amount is the basic sales tax. It's roughly 19% of the total. In fiscal year 24, that's July 1 of 2023 to June 30th of 2024, the collective 6 items generated $2.2 billion in revenue throughout the state of Nevada. And you can see at the bottom, liquor and cigarette tax were the smallest amounts. Not inconsequential, $7 million is a lot of money, but relative to the $2.2 billion, it's not a lot. Oops, hang on. What's really important to note is of the 6 items for the state of Nevada, the 2 sales tax items make up 87% of the total C-tax revenue bucket. In Washoe County, that's 84%. When people stop buying things, it has a detrimental and significant impact to local government buckets. Remember when I said C-tax is the number one revenue source for the city of Reno. 80% of that C-tax revenue comes from sales tax. So in down economies, when people stop buying, our revenue source dips quickly with very little opportunity to recover or plan. Now, what's interesting, when you buy that $100 item and you pay $8.27, half of that tax goes to the state of Nevada. People think that $8.27 comes to the city of Reno. It does not. And you're going to see as we play this out how little actually comes to Reno. But know that half goes back to the state. $2.25 does go into the C-tax bucket. We'll talk about how that gets distributed in a minute. And additionally, there's a couple of other areas that I like to highlight where Reno actually benefits. The bottom is the railroad grade project. We call that retract. That's when we undergrounded the railroad through downtown. There's a little bit of a tax in the sales tax that goes towards paying that bond. And then in the middle is the Local Government Tax Act. That's just a smidge of money gets divided up amongst the 5 entities on the right-hand side. I really don't know the genesis of that, just that we get a little bit of money there. But again, what is it? 16% of 0.25 is not a significant amount of money. The bulk of our money is going to come from the sales tax. And feel free to stop me. Okay. So we've put the 6 items in our stew. The biggest one is that supplemental sales tax. The second biggest is the basic. And it has cooked and it's ready to serve. All that money goes up to the state of Nevada, Department of Taxation. Department of Taxation says, okay, I'm going to take all that money, that $2.2 billion in 2004, and we're going to distribute it back out to the 17 counties. Then each county is going to distribute it amongst the different local entities. So in our case, state of Nevada, Department of Taxation distributes it to Washoe County. Washoe County distributes it to the city of Reno. Now, how does it get distributed? Well, it depends on which of the 6 it is, because remember, this can't be easy. It's got to be complicated, and it was designed at different times. So for liquor tax, it's going to go back based on the population of the county. It does not matter where that liquor was sold. Remember, that's a wholesale tax. That's not the sales tax. It's the wholesale tax. And it's going to primarily go to Clark because Clark has the largest population. Why did they do that? I think for ease, way back when they decided that, listen, most of the people, if you divide it by population, most of the people in Clark are going to get most of the liquor relative to the state, just simply because you're going to have more people there. That's how they do it. Of the $4.5 million in liquor tax from FY24, Washoe County as a region, we received $0.7 million, not a lot of money. The same distribution model applies for the cigarette tax. It was $7.2 million in FY24. Also goes back to the counties based on their share of the population. In that case, Washoe received $1.1 million. Now, your car registration is distributed differently. If you live in Washoe and you pay your tax, remember that $420, not all of it goes back to the county, only a percentage goes into the C-tax bucket. That amount goes back to the county where the vehicle was registered. So in this case, if you live in Clark County, you register your car in Clark County, you're going to pay a tax. The C-tax portion of that tax is going to go back to Clark County. The same is true if you buy or sell a house. That real property transfer tax is distributed back to the county where the real estate transaction took place. Also true for the basic city county relief tax. Sales tax 1. How they do this, I'll never know. But that goes back to the county where the sale took place. Our biggest funding source in C-tax, the supplemental city county relief tax component, the one that was implemented last, goes through a formula to be distributed. So we don't just give it back to the biggest county. We don't give it back to where the sales transaction occurred. We go through a formula. And the first thing we do is we give the money, a percentage of money, to what we call a guaranteed county. These are the counties on the bottom that really don't have a lot of sales revenue whatsoever. They're very agricultural. And the policy at the time, and still is today, I believe, is that we want those counties to stay alive. And so much of their revenue is dependent on C-tax, we're just going to give them a base amount and let them have it. Then the rest of the counties are going to get their cut. So in FY24, those 6 guaranteed counties got $13.3 million. Fun fact, FY25, we have 5 guaranteed counties because White Pine County hit on the mining, and they made enough money to come out of the guaranteed county status. So when we update this, when all FY25 numbers are closed, you'll see 5 there. So it's really about how much money you generate. And for that $2.2 billion, or actually the $1.5 billion for the supplemental, you can see that Washoe County, the region, got $204 million. Again, based on a formula, much higher than all the others combined. And that is the total. We are now going to work on step 2. We're going to talk about how that $313 million that the Washoe County region received was distributed back to the independent counties or independent cities. The first thing is that the enterprise districts are going to get a cut. I'll give you a picture of what the enterprise districts look like in a second. And then local governments and special districts, Reno, Sparks, GIDs are going to get their share. The enterprise districts get less than 200,000 or received less than 200,000 in FY24. Not very much at all. Reno received 96.4 million, almost a third of the total. How was that distributed? Way back in 1997, there was a base amount set that everyone was going to get. And then the excess above that base was going to be distributed based on this very complicated formula. This is still in place today. It has not been changed. Even though the city of Reno, Washoe County, and Sparks are very different today than they were in 1997. And the impact is that of that 313 million, Reno received 96.4 million, or 31% of the total. So here's where the enterprise districts are. That first cut, Sun Valley and Verdi Television GID. The special districts are the other 5. Collectively, this group of entities received 18.34 million. I'm going to flag for you that none of them are in a city. They're all in unincorporated Washoe County. Yes.
Enterprise district, I was thinking it was like the
weird
data
construct.
center places.
It's an area designed legislatively to fund a particular thing. In this case, Verdi Television. There was a policy decision made that television was important for news and contact way back when. A lot of this is very historic, that it's still in place today. And so the legislature sets up the construct and then it gets funded. So let's talk about some real world examples of where does the money go. As an aside, this effort began when a citizen approached me and said, what do you do with all that sales tax money I pay? And I said, well, I don't think I get that much, but I don't know how much I get. So let me figure it out. That ran us down a very long rabbit hole and is kind of resulting in what you are seeing today. For the liquor, the tax is $1.66. Of that $1.66, the state gets $1.43. Local governments get 23 cents. Of the 23 cents, Washoe County gets 4 cents in this example. And of the 4 cents, Reno receives 0.01. Now, that's nothing when you have 1 gallon, right? It rolls up, but this is the math. For a carton of cigarettes, The tax is $18. The Nevada General Fund takes $17. The local entities get $1 to share. That goes to Clark, Washoe, and then all the other counties, and then the Washoe region splits it up and Reno gets a nickel. If you register your $30,000 vehicle in Washoe County, you'll pay $420 in tax. Of that amount, $214 goes somewhere other than the local entities. $206 is going to go into the Washoe County region because remember, this is one where it goes where you registered the car. And of that $206, $105 goes to Washoe County, the government. Reno receives 63, Sparks 26, and then the other districts 12. Now, I want to highlight it does not matter whether you've registered that car as a citizen of Reno, Sparks, or unincorporated Washoe County. This is the distribution model. The same model applies when you sell your $500,000 home. You'll pay $2,050 in tax. $550 will go to local governments. Washoe receives the whole $550 and then divides it up accordingly on the right. And of that $2,050, the city of Reno will receive $169. Here's where it gets wild. You go into the hardware store, you buy a $100 lawnmower, you're going to pay $8.27 in sales tax. And that's the two together. $6.02 goes somewhere other than local governments. Local governments will receive $2.25. When you sort it out, Reno gets 69 cents. In this example, if you are in the city of Reno geographic boundaries, you spend $100, you pay $8.27, Reno receives 69 cents. Washoe County gets $1.14. So a lot of money has to be spent in Washoe County for Reno to be able to succeed financially. So let's look at this construct relative to population. In southern Nevada, a large part of the economic activity occurs in unincorporated Clark County. It occurs on the Strip. They're not in the city. They are in unincorporated Washoe County. Clark County being the tail that wags the dog, when they set this up, it made perfect sense. It also might have made sense in this region at the time. But today, a large portion of the economic activity occurs within the city of Reno. And the city of Reno is not benefiting to the extent that it is creating the economic activity, unlike in Clark County. So let's talk about that math. Unincorporated Washoe County has 23% of the entire population in the county and receives 51% of the total C-tax share. In the city of Reno, we have 55% of the population in the county and receive 31% of the total share. And then you can see the sparks. In Clark County, unincorporated Clark County, that's where the Strip is, that's where the money is made. They have 44% of the population and receive 36% of the C-tax allocation. And in every single example, they receive less than their total population in comparison to here. Now, to be fair, as I said in the beginning, I'll say at the end, Washoe County provides a lot of services that Reno residents take advantage of. In fact, it could be argued that Reno residents drive the need for the services. There are more people who live in Reno taking advantage of the senior services simply because we have 55% of the population. That just makes sense. They provide the libraries. They provide public health, the medical examiner. The question becomes, though, when you're looking at equity and how local governments are funded, do these services warrant this distinction? That's a question that remains. What this does for us is it explains why we have challenges. Why do we constantly feel like we have to catch up? And when you just kind of lay it out by the math, it tells a story. And then you can get more information there if you would like. Yes.
I had one more question.
Of course.
You had said in FY24, the total revenue was 2.2 billion. And I was just wondering generally how it compares to the total spend of the city.
So the city's total, hang on, let me go back. Our total general fund revenue is 312 million. And of that, a third is from CTAX. So I want to give you a number so I don't have to do math in my head. 108 million is what I think it's going to be. I'm going to get to it eventually, I promise. There we go. It's roughly 103 if I'm doing the math correctly, but I'll 102.2 from CTAX. So of the 2.2 billion, Reno receives 102 million. Is that the question you were
It
asking?
was more like, how does the tax revenue compare to what it costs, like what the city's paying out?
Oh, that's a whole different slide deck. I'm
Well,
happy
I
to.
can wait for that if that's.
I'm happy to come present that to you. Basically, the short answer is that our revenues are declining in multiple categories. Franchise fees, absolutely. Fuel tax is a different area where we have more hybrid vehicles, more people with great gas mileage, and more people with electric vehicles who are not contributing to the fuel tax. So it's really impacting our street fund negatively. The main challenges here is 80% of these services are roughly labor. It's the most expensive thing that we pay for every year. Police and fire comprise, I want to say 60 to 64% of the total with dispatch. That's a significant amount of our salaries. It goes towards that population. But I would love to come back and give you the whole, or I'll have Vicki come, our finance director, come give you the whole presentation if this body is interested. I would love to come explain our budget to you. I'd love it. Yes, I would love it.
Corey Fredericks for the record. Are you basically saying though that the revenue that is generated yearly typically equates to the expenditures?
No, our revenue generated is far less than our expenditures.
Okay.
To the tune of 24 million last year and roughly 24 million this year, as we're building out the FY27 budget. The reality is that when there was COVID, and then we had a lot of money coming through the federal government, there was a huge uptick in expenditures. You now know that the driver for sales tax is sales tax, it's expenditures. So when people had all that extra money, they were spending it. It bumped us up 7 to 9%. And we reset at that. Now, with the economy, with COVID, something else just happened recently. It just went out of my head. But federal government changes, it's unstable. Let's put it that way. People aren't sure how much money they're going to have. Inflation has gone up significantly. So the spend patterns are much lower. And that is impacting our amounts for sure.
Corey Fredericks for the record. How quickly do we notice, or are we able to see that, like when it moves?
So, fun fact, I'll give you a little story. Typically, we watch it daily, but we actually get a data point every month. However, in January of this year, the state of Nevada flipped from what's called a cash accrual basis to a, what's it called? What was the other term? They were on a modified accrual basis, thank you, and they went to a cash accrual basis. What that means is this, is historically, for quite some time, the money collected in December was paid in February. And so we have months and years of data where we can tell you what months are going to be the biggest revenue drivers and which months are going to be low. January and February are pretty low. That makes sense, right? When they flipped accrual methods in January, they began giving us money as they received it. So we got money from October in January. Maybe we got some from November. It came to us based on a payment and a receipt rather than a stark collection period. What that meant is that we could not trend. One month, the amounts were 3 times what we would have expected, and everybody was like, yay, fantastic. And the next month, they were 3 times below, and everybody was like, what are we going to do? Because there was no consistency. 4 to 5 months in, they were hit with a cyber attack, which created another set of challenges for them, which meant the recipients of the money, we had significant challenges being able to figure out, is it the economy? Is it the accrual method? Is it the cyber attack? This month is the first month they just flipped back to the accrual method where we can trend. So for this month, it looks like we are exactly spot on. So we watch, I mean, we talk about it every day. We are all obsessed with, finance reports and the economics and things like that. But what we really want is that closeout data. And what it shows after the first 3 months of this year is that we are trending 2% above in C-tax, and that is exactly what we expect. Now, will that hold for the next 3 months? I don't know. We monitor it on a very regular basis, pretty obsessively, to be honest. But now that we have gotten back to the right accrual basis, we feel like we are in a much better place. It was pretty scary for a while there. Yes.
Bryce Chisholm for the record. It seems like Washoe's gets so much more money, and I'd like to see like the difference between their spending and the city, with your fire and police and all the services they're provided. But are you trying to change this in the legislature?
There's a couple of ways to change it. One is, remember when I showed you the base, the formula? One way is to increase that base. That requires a legislative change. That's possible. The challenge for Washoe County will be, well, wait a minute, you've got more of my pie now. Now what am I supposed to do? And, we're all in one region together. Another way to do it is we are actively scrubbing every single interlocal agreement, MOU, and those that just existed via an email, and we're cataloging them, and we're identifying where we might have subsidies, where the city of Reno has at some point in time agreed to do a thing that we probably should be charging for. So I'll give you an example. There are individuals who live in Washoe County, unincorporated Washoe County, and the city of Reno does bill processing for their sewer payments. It's about 20% of our total. We don't charge Washoe County for that service. If someone comes to me today and says, hey, I think it's more efficient for the taxpayer for you to do the thing instead of me, we say, yes, absolutely. We do this all the time. But we apply what we call administrative fee, because performing the function of paying the bills isn't the only cost. It's also the HR for that person, the finance, the IT, the equipment, the rental components of a building or space. There's pieces, and we allocate those. We found out that we haven't been charging anything. So I've said, you need to go back and look and figure out what we would be charging if we charge 15%. I think it's the right thing that we perform the service, but we should not be performing the service to the detriment of Reno taxpayers. And I think that's what's happening right now. So we are doing that on a granular level with every single agreement, every single service, and we're creating a list. That's probably one way to help with this. Do I think that this is, we would be successful going to the legislature and doing a wholesale change? Probably not. We don't want to hurt our partners either. We also recognize there are significant challenges around property tax, and this is nothing compared to the property tax challenges. That's kind of where the juice is worth the squeeze. So while it is important for us as leaders in the Reno community to be able to answer the question of where does your sales tax revenue go, we're not going to see a whole lot of solutions on this path, I don't believe.
So is that why, they were trying to consolidate fire for Washoe County and Reno? Is that part of that?
That's one piece. There's one argument to be made that there are some efficiencies to be saved. I would say the probably bigger piece is that there are technical challenges under the current construct where CADs, our computer aided dispatch, don't talk to each other. You got to call 911. I got you, wrong department. I got to call over here. We're working through that. We're making significant progress on that. In fact, we have a fire board meeting on Friday to kind of track that. I believe there would be significant efficiencies and money saved. I think the bigger issue is faster response. Training would be the same. Right now, you got Sparks and Reno and Truckee Meadows all kind of doing different things. I think that there's a lot of value to come in addition to the savings.
Well, it used to be consolidated,
It
correct?
did, and then there was
Yeah.
a big old divorce. There's a lot of history. around
And someone told me their budget went from 10 million to 20 million after they canceled the consolidation. So my last question is about the special assessment districts, like the Bird Eye Television.
Yes, the enterprise districts and that
Yeah,
one.
the Enterprise and Palomino Valley. So what did they do with their $2.4 million?
I have no idea.
Yeah. And so I know that Bird Eye Television there's been talks about that one for a long time, because that's a very old thing. So is someone just holding on to that money? Is it?
I have no idea.
Okay.
All right. Are there any further questions?
Yeah, this is Lindsay Darrow. It seems like the fundamental issue is, none of the things that you talked about, the minor changes are going to fix this gaping hole.
They're not.
And the fundamental issue is Nevadans are one of the least taxed people in the country.
Correct.
So I don't know what the solution is to that, but it seems like moving around the pieces on the chessboard is not really going to do much. So it's either you bring in more tax revenue and support the services, or you cut the services.
That's right.
And so I feel like the conversation is, how do you bring in more money? And if Nevadans aren't and Reno-ites are not willing to do that, then which services are you going to cut? And the budget, from what I can see at Reno, is bare bones already. I think the police and fire are already what percentage of the budget? It's like
50 to 65 total, all in supplies or salaries. I can't think of the number right now, but we're going to do a whole budget presentation.
Yeah, there's not a huge slush fund
There's
of
no
stuff
slush fund.
we're spending on
No.
here. We've scraped it down to nothing.
You are correct.
So in terms of messaging, I feel like this is math. It's not, we can pretend that we can move all this stuff around, but there's not enough money. That's the way I see it.
There is not, and Reno's not the only entity experiencing this challenge. It is affecting the entire state. It is a policy decision that will need to be addressed. I give the example often that my parents live in a very rural part of Virginia where they have a volunteer firefighter department. And it really is. Somebody's at dinner and you hear the alarm from across the valley and everybody gets up if you're a firefighter and you go to the scene. That is not a policy decision this community has made, and I do not believe they would want. But until we start to understand where the money goes and we eliminate the perspective of, well, you're wasting it, someone's stealing it, someone's cheating, and we're not going to get that for everybody, but we have an obligation to start the education process. Until we get through the education point, we won't be able to have the conversation about what to do. So this is kind of step one for this body. You'll see property tax, you'll see fuel tax. We'll now add on a budget presentation if you'll have us, because you're the ones in the community. And I always tell people, when you leave here, go tell 5 people that if you buy something for $100 and you pay $8.27, 69 cents goes to Reno. That's not a lot, not for the services that we provide. And I do believe wholeheartedly we have a phenomenal police and fire department. I think the services we provide with the few staff other than police and firefighter that we have are fantastic. But it is a policy decision that'll have to be addressed. That's my soapbox. Any other questions? No?
One more, is this entire PowerPoint available on that website?
It sure is.
Okay.
As long and a lot more. Jeremy Aguero gave this presentation. He's an expert. He is applied analysis. He's a phenomenal expert around the state and the country on taxes. And he has been used by every governor's office for generations here. And he really does know what he's talking about. He gave this presentation to council. He's far more dynamic than I am. And it's an exciting presentation to watch if you feel like you have another hour. A lot of fun.
Thank you. Hearing no more questions, well, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you for your time. I
Of
really
course,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. We're now going to move on to development projects. So we'll start with item B3. Is the presenter available to come up?
It's the Stan Lucas Mortensen Ranch.
Yeah, Stan
He
Lucas.
doesn't have a presentation tonight, just here for questions from the body.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Cami LeRae for the record, yes, I do have questions. So I see on the agenda that it is a request for a 2-year delay for the final site map. And I'm guessing these two gentlemen in front are, thank you very much. Hi. So yeah, so the 2-year delay, and I was wondering if you could give us any insight into what the delay is driven by?
For the record, my name is Don Smith. I'm the applicant for Lucas Verdi LLC. It's really a very simple thing. The property is owned by a single man, and he passed away on January 10th. They were working with an engineering firm, legal firms here in Reno, and they were close to their first final map. Some issues came up with a thing called the Kinder Morgan line, which runs through the property. And at the time of his death, they were ready to, very close on the final map that could have happened. But because of the funds that were required in order to do that final map, his death, and then the selection of 3 trustees to take care of his assets, they have no background in development, real estate, and they've been struggling for about six months. They're starting to get a grasp of things. So, of course, the property has to be sold, and that is the intent at this point. I think that they've come to some resolve preliminarily with the Kinder Morgan line and Toll Brothers and the Truckee Meadows Water Authority. So it's simply a 2-year extension to allow the trustees to move the program forward and get it back on track. And they feel bad, but when you don't know, when you really don't have a background in this, it's very, very complex, which I'm sure all of you are aware. So it's a very simple request, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Yes, so I live in West Meadows, which is very close to, well, it's neighboring this development. And there's there's just a lot of speculation. So thank you for that.
Nobody's hiding a thing. It's purely up to Mr. Lucas's passing.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, you said that the property will be for sale. Are you guys planning on listing it within the next 2 years, or are we trying to avoid selling it?
No, again, I can't speak completely for the trustees because they're still in the learning mode and what they intend to do with the property. And I don't want to have any of my comments become speculative. They just need some time. They're working with people, working with engineers, with legal, and it's a big project. And the one thing they do care about is whoever gets it does a good job, as Stan had hoped to do with that property. So.
Bryce Chisholm. Someone told me to ask if this is a senior, because out the Del Webb area is like a senior or above 50.
You know, I don't think that was the intent. I think I was not really intimately involved with Mortensen Ranch. I'm the manager of the other LLC, which is 3,600 acres. I can answer a lot of questions on that, but I can assure you that the intent wasn't a senior program. It was, they're working with some upscale developers that would come in. Mr. Lucas really didn't have an intention to build the homes.
it was his intention to put these civil improvements in, blue top the lots, and then sell those in tranches, similar to what you see there at Somerset and, next door.
Thank you. Was there any other exits ever planned out of there? Just wondering.
I can't answer those questions. I'm here for the easy part.
Okay.
Which isn't so easy.
Well, I think the extension is pretty common, right? So
One 2-year extension.
Is this your
to
second?
NRS. If you get another one, it has to be because the regulatory agencies failed to do something. And so this is our very first request. And if it doesn't happen, then it will expire on January 26th of 2028.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any more questions? All right. Hearing none. Thank you. We'll now move on to item B1, the Moose Ridge tentative map and major site plan review. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Derek Wilson on behalf of the property owner. We have a tentative map. We recently made the application to the planning department, and our goal is to build single-family houses. So there's been a previous project approved on this site, so anyone with long memories may recall seeing this site before. If people want to hit me with questions about that history, I'm happy to go over it. I'm not sure how relevant it is for this project, except to say that this property has certainly been on the public's mind because of that history. So they've seen it, they're familiar with it, and we've done our best to stay in touch with people and to sort of keep them updated. Anytime the truck stop comment earlier got my attention. Years ago, I worked on that piece of property, and I got a call from some truck stop people, and I said, I can't find a single person in Northern Nevada that wants to see a truck stop there, including myself. That was the last time I talked about truck stops. So people have long memories. So the same with this parcel. So we want information out there. We want accuracy out there. We want to be in touch with people. So we want to do our best to make sure that people are discussing what we actually plan and not what they heard. Somehow my clicker's not go. There we go. Sorry. So the plan is a parcel map with 47 single-family homes, similar to what's in the neighborhood already. Additionally, we have a major site plan review for grading and for hillside development. It's a hillside site. Additionally, we have an application already into the city, a zoning map amendment to rezone. Currently, the request is to rezone the entire site to single family 8, SF8. We are discussing with the city, instead of zoning all of it SF8, we zone a portion of it open space. If we can make our unit calculations work, we're happy to do that. Functionally, it doesn't matter to us. It's going to be open space no matter what. And you can see in this diagram, we're only going to develop on that southern part. That's the flatter area. That top space, no matter what, the zoning map says it's going to be open space. We'll either dedicate it open space, or if the calculations work for our lot number, we're happy to zone that open space with the city. So we're currently working with the city on that. So it's roughly 16 acres of development, and it's all going to be clustered, grouped at that southern edge near the existing Moose Ridge Drive. That's our layout, single family lots. So we're going to have significant open space in the area. There's also some unregulated grading that's gone on over the years. People taking off-road vehicles up there, and it's created some erosion problems. Anytime you get a project, all that gets cleaned up. So we consider that to be a major improvement to the area. We're going to stabilize those disturbed slopes. We're going to put in drainage controls, detention basins, and additionally, on the far right of that image, you can see a road going off to the side. That's an access road that serves the water line. We're going to create a water connection between this neighborhood and the neighborhood to the east. That's something that Tumwa wants and the city wants. So in effect, we're partnering with Tumwa and the city on this. We already have the easements in place. We already have the commitment to do that in place. That's the related zone change request. That's our subject parcel. It's SF3 now. We're requesting a change to SF8. So that matches the existing Moose Ridge neighborhood for the zoning. I have to clarify, our lots will be a little bit smaller than the existing lots in the Moose Ridge neighborhood. I got in trouble with some of the neighbors when I said our zoning matches, and they said, you're lying. I said, no, I'm talking about the zoning map. SF8 matches SF8. Our lots will in fact be a little bit smaller than what's drawn on Moose Ridge now. Our lots will be 6,000 feet and up, 6,000 square feet. That's the master plan. It's master plan for this change, so we don't need to change the master plan to accommodate our proposed zone change. That's a look looking north from the end of Moose Ridge Drive. You can see we're utilizing the predominantly flat area of the site. That's a diagram of our Tumwa water connection. That yellow bit is the easement that'll have the water line and an access road. So that'll be an emergency exit road and water maintenance access. So it improves fire service to the area, water redundancy, and provides an emergency access. I have some comments from the neighbors that the streets there are narrow. I think everybody says that in Nevada. I think most suburban streets in Nevada can handle much higher traffic loads. As an example of this, Plum Lane, that picture on the bottom, that's the west end of Plum Lane. That's the same width as Moose Ridge Drive. So in my opinion, Moose Ridge Drive is an underutilized bit of road. It can handle the additional traffic from 47 new houses. So project summary. City of Reno needs to add houses. Everybody knows that. The city's published a study on that. So this is where we start. SF8 is compatible with the area. It's already in the area. Major infrastructure is in place. Roads, utilities are all led to the site. And we're going to improve infrastructure with this project. Previous public outreach, we had a community forum. I went around the neighborhood and handed out notices. I've called and emailed people. So we definitely do want to stay in touch with people. I'd much rather have accurate information out there than rumors. And we're targeting a planning commission hearing in January. That's not set yet, but we're certainly aiming for that. I'd say that's likely. I hate to make a commitment on a date and then have it slip. There always is a chance it would get bumped, but I think we'll hit that date. And that's all I've got. I'm happy to elaborate if there are questions.
Hi, Kayla Bailey for the record. I have several questions. What are the plans with the open space? Are you guys planning on keeping that the natural landscape? Are you going to be putting walking trails? What's the plan up there?
Yep. Yeah, great question. The majority of it will just stay as it is, but we will have a trailhead with, I guess we call it guest parking or trailhead parking in our site. And I should have mentioned that. Thank you. So yeah, we're not going to develop it, but we will have access to it.
Thank you. And then what are we looking at as far as like home square footage, bedroom size on a 6,000 square foot lot?
I should have, this always makes me a little nervous, but you can fit 1,900, 2,000 square foot house with a garage on a lot that size. Small yards, no question. I myself have moved to a similar lot like that recently, and I couldn't be happier. I never was excited to own a lawnmower.
Awesome. And then how many phases is this development going to be in?
I expect it to be one phase.
Okay.
Yeah. Similar to other projects, the owner would likely get the approval in place, do some of the infrastructure work, and then sell it to a local home builder. And 47 units, I think they would just knock that off in one phase.
Okay. So then I guess my next question isn't relevant since you guys plan on selling to a builder. You don't have a builder selected, and so you wouldn't know about the approximate value or price that the homes would be.
It's all the easy sites in Reno are long gone. So this is an expensive site to develop, particularly with the water connection and road. So the builder is going to be interested in fancy houses.
Okay.
I don't think you can make it work with cheap houses.
For sure. Sorry, one more question. So the Canyon Pines HOA is in that Peavine area just below the development. Are you guys going to have your own homeowners association? Is that any part of the plan that it'll be a separate HOA entity that'll?
It has to be. And
Okay.
those HOAs can be pretty minimal for a small development, but somebody has to maintain the drainage ways and take responsibility for those things. So yes, an
Okay.
HOA.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bryce Chisholm. I guess I just worry about the traffic going down either Avenida de Delanda or Las Brisas.
Mhm.
I already live on Las Brisas, off of Las Brisas, and people fly down that street. So it's just more houses up there. And I know people that live in that Moose Ridge. So I'm sure they weren't happy about more housing going up there when you think you live in a cul-de-sac or at the end of the thing. But is there another lot behind there that they could keep on developing, or are you like the last one?
I know that we're bordered by City of Reno property. God, I haven't looked at the ownership map in a while. I think it becomes public land up there, but it's also pretty steep. I'd be surprised if you got another subdivision.
Well, you got the water tower up there, and then
Yeah.
I think that is public land. But
Yeah.
just to clarify, so there's not another development in 10 years from now that's
Not
it's
that
only
anyone-
80 more houses above this one. Don't worry.
Not that anyone's ever talked to me about.
Okay, thanks.
Danny Martindale for the record. I just have one question about flood mitigation. What are you going to do so it doesn't, just all flow down to the neighbors below?
We're going to detain any of our stormwater on site. In fact, our detention basins are going to detain more water than we generate from our site. So that's sort of standard city policy these days. And frankly, it's a fairly easy thing to do when you have a unintensively developed site. So we're going to do that, and it's the right thing to do for us and for the neighborhood. So yeah, we're going to clean up. Right now, there's no controls. They're just bare dirt on a lot of that. So we're going to stabilize all those slopes.
Hey, this is Abby Lugtug for the record, and this might be more of a question for Callie or the city folks, but you did start your presentation by saying, we're addressing the housing and the city's goals for housing of the 15,000 housing, but then, you said all the easy houses have been built, only fancy houses left, and so I was like, that might be a little bit, because I don't think the city was like, just build fancy houses. I think they're probably more wanting affordable houses, so just comment maybe for the city.
I'm happy to comment on that. I actually, that thought flashed through my mind as I said that. But it's the truth. This is 47 units. We don't have the space on this site to make a significant dent in affordable housing. And I don't think it's a great site for affordable housing for the reasons we went over. But you got to expand the boundaries that you have. And this is what we have. I mean, it does provide additional housing choices.
See a question over here. I'll get your mic on.
Jessica Bullard-Nolan for the record. So Las Brisas doesn't have a signal light. It's in between 7th Street and Kings Row. It's area of heavy traffic, often on McCarran. With the addition of 47 houses already adding to a little bit of the congestion there, or is the developer in talks with the city or with RTC about maybe adding safety measures in there for people who are leaving or heading to work or school?
So that's always a bit more of a complex question. It always seems simple. You build some new stuff, you put in a traffic light or whatever. It doesn't really work that way. The city engineering department and regional transportation commission have rules about where traffic controls can go, and you've got to hit certain data points, and frankly, you got to hit certain cars. I mean, sometimes just the number of accidents makes changes, and I don't love that system, but that's where we are. What I do know in that neighborhood is I agree that some of those steep grades and those big wide streets, people drive way too fast. I agree. What I like to see is some narrowing points on some of the straightaways. There's some in place already up there. I don't know how effective they are, but I feel we should try that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm happy if Moose Ridge or some other street up there needed some sort of speed bump type controls, we'd certainly be happy to discuss that. But ultimately, that does come from the city engineering department. We can't just say we're going to do this. We can't go out there and make bumps in the street. But we're open to those discussions, absolutely.
Well, and you're talking about McCarran too, and that's a state highway. So I don't think that's a city city thing. Yeah.
Kayla Bailey for the record. Just a clarifying question. So we have 47 units right now. Is that based off of the residential 3 zoning, or is that based off of the residential 8?
The 8 zoning.
Okay. But you guys haven't received the zoning approval yet?
We have not. So they would go to a hearing together.
Okay.
And if the zoning got shot down, then the project would be shot down.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to clarify, is that if you guys couldn't change the zoning, then the project is no longer moving forward.
Right.
Okay.
Not with this plan.
Not with this one. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Any other further questions?
Corey Fredericks for the record. So you're saying that the main public access would be Moose Ridge and Fox Trail?
Yeah.
Exit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking at the streets there, you said that they were about as narrow as West Plum Lane.
It's the same travel width as West Plum Lane, yes.
Which I would say is relatively thin comparatively to the traffic that goes on it now. But if you're
Yes,
driving up that area into Moose Ridge, to where you're talking about, are you planning to make the new development streets slightly wider? And my question is based off of, as you go up that hill, because we have my in-laws live in there as well, the snow becomes much higher when you get like up that hill. And as people are trying to access that, there's a lot of slipping and sliding, and those streets often aren't, the snow removal makes it there a little bit later than say they would to Avenida de Lolanda, like the major traffic roads. So I'm just curious if you would be making the streets any wider for things like snow, and access as you go up the hill, and especially for like buses and stuff for the school buses.
So that's certainly an area where we would take instruction from the engineering department. So if they required us to have wider streets, we would do it. I don't think that they're excited to have streets change widths, sort of what they would consider randomly. So we're going to build it to the city current standard, which I believe is what Moose Ridge is now. Moose Ridge is not a super old street. So we'll just replicate the engineering department's, what they call their street cross section there.
And for the record, I do think that the streets there are wide enough for the traffic that goes on them. Not West Plum Lane.
My point about Plum Lane is that Plum Lane has, I don't know, 50 times the traffic of Moose Ridge. So yeah.
Hi, this is Lindsay Darrow. I'm just curious, in the process of proposing this, what are you asked to think about in terms of like common spaces and parks? This is sort of like from I want to see it. I'm curious on your side, like, are there any requirements that you've had to meet for having like a field for the, for the houses around there? Or is that just entirely up to you?
No, the city certainly does give us comments on that, which in fact we anticipated in this case, and that's the trailhead that we provided, and that satisfied their I guess open space and their recreation requirement. So the big chunk of our site that's open space, that's certainly providing a public amenity. And then a trailhead with a trail easement so people can legally go there and use it. So that satisfies that requirement.
But there's no, for example, requirement or you're not being asked to have like a space for children to, like a common area or anything.
Yeah. No, I'd say 47 units is a little bit.
It's pretty small
for that kind of request. If I'm willing to hear ideas. I mean, if there was.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm trying to learn the process somewhat too. And like when you've gone through this process, did you have to point out parks that were nearby? Like
I know the city looks at that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we highlighted that on any of our exhibits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any further questions? All right, hearing none, thank you so much for your time today. All right, so let's move on to agenda item B2, the Quilisi Clubhouse. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
We have the applicant for this one online, so.
Great.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
We sure can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Chris Coombs, and I'm here representing the applicant in this case, which is Toll Brothers. Apologize for doing this virtually. I planned on being there in person, but there is a flu epidemic running through my house at the moment, so you guys get me online. So this presentation is for the clubhouse at Quilisi Ranch, and we are currently slated to go to Planning Commission next Wednesday on December 17th. Kelly, if you could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so as some of you may recall, back in 2021, there was a tentative map approved for what was called the Santara Quilisi Properties, which is a large land holding kind of south and east of Interstate 80 in the Verdi area, where Interstate 80 heads west and then takes a left and goes south. The project kind of rings around that portion of Interstate 80. Since then, the project has been purchased by, or the property has been purchased by Toll Brothers, and they have been actively developing the lower portion of the project, which is predominantly kind of south of the Boomtown Garson exit, and then heading slightly west from there. With that tentative map approval at the time, there was an amenity site or an amenity use which serves the development that was conceptually contemplated and approved. And so now we are here to formally present what Toll Brothers would like to do for that facility. On this map itself, you can kind of see the location within the project where the clubhouse is proposed to be. And Callie, if you could go to the next slide, please. So the site itself for the clubhouse is 5.71 acres, and the zoning of the site is multifamily residential MF14. And this property is also located in the Mortenson-Garson Overlay District. And the master plan designation of the site is multifamily. What this application is for is per code for this clubhouse, which would be a private facility for use of the Quilisi Ranch residents. The basis of the application is that it's a non-residential development adjacent to residentially zoned property. The establishment of a country club use under city code. There's also a hillside development component to it because the site itself has slopes greater than 15%. And then grading for cuts and fills. In this case, we have fills greater than 10 feet in height on the site. Yes, thanks, Callie. So this is a kind of a zoomed out version of the site plan itself. The next slide we'll zoom in on it a little bit so we can talk some more about the components of it. But Quilisi Meadow Parkway, which is a street within the development that is currently constructed. The project will take access off of that. Obviously, we've got the parking lot in front there, and then generally speaking, there are two separate buildings along with a variety of outdoor uses. And so next slide, please, Callie. So this is zoomed in kind of on the meat of the project. As I said, there are two buildings. On the left is what we call the main clubhouse. It's a 6,000 square foot, 6,009 square foot building. And then it also has approximately another 3,000 square feet of covered outdoor area. Within that building, about 2,500 square feet of it has been termed kind of an indoor social club that's going to have indoor-outdoor kind of bar area. There's fireplaces, seating. There are actually two indoor golf simulators proposed, and then a staging kitchen for catered events. On the other side of the building is an 1,100 square foot multi-purpose room that's more suited to kind of children and family use. There's going to be things like pool tables, ping pong, games, video games. And there's also a more of a residential style kitchen over there. So either of those facilities could be rented out for special events, parties, things like that. The other building on the project is the fitness barn. It's about a 6,700 square foot building. About 3,800 square feet of that is a multi-purpose gym area. It's got a half-court basketball court that could also be used for an indoor pickleball court. You could have fitness classes, things like that in there. And then another 1,700 square foot of that building is an indoor gym area where there's going to be weight equipment, cardio equipment, things like that. That building also has a about 1,500 square foot outdoor covered area that could be used as well. At outdoor of the two buildings, there are several areas in addition to the patio areas where they're going to have, like I said, seating, fire pits, things like that, where people can kind of gather. There are lawn and turf areas that could be used for events, parties, sporting events of certain types for the residents. And then there is also an outdoor tennis court and 2 outdoor pickleball courts. So the hours of I should also point out, in the main clubhouse room, there's also going to be room for offices for building personnel, HOA management, things like that. The proposed hours for the clubhouse building are from 7 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. The fitness barn would be accessible 24 hours a day with a key fob. And right now they're anticipating they'll have 3 full-time employees and several part-time employees that come in and out, work certain shifts. And then things like janitorial, landscaping, building maintenance, that'll all be third party. Next slide, please, Callie. So this is a proposed grading plan for the site, and this speaks to the hillside development part of the application. Approximately 30% of the site has slopes 15% or greater, which was one of the boxes we checked. And then the fill area, north on this is up and down on the page. So in the northeast corner of the site where the lawn area projects out over the slope, you can see where we're going to have, that's where we hit the fill metric, and we've got a fill over in that part of the site of approximately 30 feet. Next few slides, we've got some elevations, some proposed concepts. So this is the front of the building from the parking lot. If you were looking at the clubhouse building, this is the clubhouse. That area on the left is kind of the social club area. And then in the center, you've got, glass atrium area. That's going to be your entry with a receptionist desk, things like that. And over on the right-hand side is the family area, the family room part. Next slide, please. So this is a bit more aerial view, once again, from the south side of the building, kind of looking at it from the air of the parking lot. You've got the main building there on the left, and then over on the right, you can see the fitness barn. And then back up in the corner, you see the tennis courts and the pickleball area, along with the kind of the turf area, how that area is imagined to look. And then our final slide, please, Callie. This is from the north side. So once again, you've got the clubhouse on the right, the fitness barn area on the left. You can get a better idea of the outdoor areas as a part of the project there. And then once again, the turf kind of area. So in a nutshell, that's what I wanted to present to you guys. Toll Brothers is looking forward to building this to support the community that they're developing up there and have it be of use for the residents. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Kayla Bailey for the record. I just need a little bit of clarification. So the property is currently zoned for multifamily. Is that correct? Not sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I lose you?
Yeah, possibly. I'll repeat my question. So maybe it's my microphone. I'm not talking into it good enough. It says that the current parcel is zoned multifamily.
The master plan designation is, yes, the zoning and the master plan designation are multifamily. This is an allowed use within that zoning.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Danny Martindale for the record. It looks like your 30-foot fills, is that more where the grass area is?
Yes, yeah, kind of the northwest corner of the site. Cal, if you could get back to the grading plan slide, please. It's about 4 from the back. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, that fill area is up in the kind of the upper left part of this exhibit in the lawn area. You can see where they're pushing out over that slope to create that flat area there.
Mayumi Doyama for the record. You mentioned that this was to support the surrounding community. I was just wondering if this area, this proposed site is accessible by foot, by bike, or only by car?
No, within the Quilcy Ranch development, there are going to be, I mean, we've got sidewalks, of course, so people can walk to it. There are bike lanes on the roads that front it. Quilcy Meadow Parkway on the front has bike lanes associated with it, so people could bike to the project or to the clubhouse. And then within Quilcy Ranch itself, there are also going to be a series of trails that go throughout the project that people can utilize to get throughout it, including to the clubhouse.
Tammy LaRae for the record. So on these trails, and because could you just clarify this facility and this space, I'm assuming is for the recreation of HOA members. And as you are referencing trails and such, that would be something that anyone in the community could use. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, correct. This clubhouse is for residents of Quilcy Ranch itself. And the trails are interior to the project, so residents within Quilcy Ranch would use it to get throughout into the clubhouse.
Great. And just one more question. With regards to the turf, is the development going to plant grass or artificial turf? Do you know?
It's a combination of both. There are going to be some artificial turf areas, and then the larger kind of lawn area, I believe, is planned to be real grass.
Great. And I think just for the record, some of the issues with artificial turf, it breaking apart, it going into drainages, into waterways, and complicating just general water quality, raw water quality, I think is something that the quality of the artificial turf to withstand the sun and the elements of our region, I think is pretty relevant to those impacts. So I'd just like to go on the record, Chris, and say that.
Sure.
Hi, this is Lindsay Darrow. I was just wondering if there were any concerns about the noise from the pickleball courts. I think it's great you are adding pickleball courts. It's obviously something people like, but I know some communities have had issues with just the sound of that all day long.
We haven't specifically discussed noise from the pickleball courts, but I can tell you that the property to the east, to the right of the courts themselves, that's common area. And there's also a nice kind of drainage way that goes through there. So there's not going to be any residents directly adjacent to the pickleball courts on that side. And then this site itself is up on kind of a high point. And so any development that could occur north and west of the clubhouse site is going to be considerably lower than this. So I think noise probably be pretty well mitigated in those cases.
Kayla Bailey for the record. Kind of a silly question, but I did notice on your plans that there's no seasonal pool. Most clubhouses have something like that. Is that something that you guys are considering putting in the future? Did you opt out for a specific reason?
I can't speak to that. I wasn't a part of the kind of the programming, so to speak, of what they wanted to put here or not. That would have been more of an interior Toll Brothers discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I'm hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Combs, for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. This now concludes our development projects. We're going to move on to item A6, our staff liaison report. Go ahead, Callie.
Chair, let me cue it up here. I'm going to go through some general NAB review tonight and then a short training topic. So we'll start with some reminders. Just want to keep you all aware of Reno Direct, the city's non-emergency service center. If you or anyone you know ever has any questions, would like to report something, Reno Direct is your go-to. Another reminder to confirm your attendance with me and or respond to our board secretary, Cami Leray, if any of us contact you for attendance checks. Keep an eye if you see Cami's email in your inbox. She's just checking to see if you're coming to a meeting. In a few weeks, I'm going to send another quorum check for the first quarter of 2026. So that'll be January, February, and March. Take a look at your calendar and see if you're available. And let me know if you anticipate that you'll be present. Of course, things come up. If you know you can't make it or something changes, just reach out to me and let me know. As always, if you're interested in anything happening at the city, feel free to sign up for one or any of the city's e-newsletters, especially the Development Projects and Council Agendas newsletter. Now for some board membership updates. We're going to agendize officer elections in January. So we'll be looking at elections for chair, vice chair, and secretary. If any of our officers are looking to be reelected, feel free to throw your name in the hat. Or if you're interested in serving in one of these positions, just let me know if you have any questions. There's currently one vacancy on this board for an alternate member. So if you know someone who's interested in serving, just point them to Reno.Gov/boards to apply. If you're looking for your term dates as well, they're also on this site. You'll just go to the Ward 5 NAB page, click on members, and then click on your name, and your term date information will populate there. This is where you'll also be looking to reapply if you're eligible and interested once your term is up. Some other reminders for tonight, you might have seen during the presentations that there's been a slight change to the Planning Commission meeting dates for these projects. So item C1, Moose Ridge, it's not scheduled for the December 17th meeting. As far as I can tell, it's not on an agenda yet, but feel free to turn in your project review worksheets when you get a chance within the next couple of weeks. Additionally, items C2 and C3 will be heard at next week's Planning Commission meeting. That's Wednesday, December 17th. So if you can have your worksheets in by Tuesday, December 16th, so I can get them added to the meeting materials and distributed to the Planning Commission, that would be great. Board officers, please just talk briefly about who's going to submit that summary public comment for those items. This is not your personal public comments, just an idea of what you discussed here tonight. You don't have to come to the meeting. You can submit online beforehand. You can email your comments to me directly. I'll make sure they get recorded, or you can join the meeting virtually. Okay, we'll dive into our training. I'm going to start with a quick review of the NAB's purpose for some of us who are new to the NAB, as well as a rundown on how to access meeting materials. And then I'm going to spend a few slides talking about the updated board, commission, committee member reports, announcements, and future agenda items section. So as you all know, the resolution adopted by the City Council provides that neighborhood advisory boards are to serve as ward-based forums for public comment and discussion on certain land development projects, as well as other community issues identified with the council liaison to the board. NABs are intended to strengthen communication between the city and the community by gathering neighborhood level feedback on development impacts and ensuring that public concerns are recorded. NAB members may ask questions and provide comments, but NABs are advisory bodies only and do not take votes on development projects or recommend positions to the Planning Commission or City Council. Generally, the NAB meeting structure is as follows. We start with introductory A items, the roll call, public comment, approval of agenda and minutes, and then our announcements from the council and staff liaison. Section B is for development project review, which, as you know, is usually the bulk of our meetings, where we hear presentations from applicants who are bringing development projects forward. Section C is for non-development business items. And then the new Section D is the combination of what used to be the board member reports and announcements item with discussion of future agenda items. Moving forward, these are going to be combined into one item for NABs as well as the other boards and commissions here at the City of Reno. We just decided to combine them because a lot of times the boards were just conflating them with each other. So we've just combined them to eliminate redundancy. After the D items, we'll always have a final period of closing public comment, Section E, and then we end with Section F, adjournment. For meeting materials, agendas are posted at least 3 business days in advance and distributed via electronic newsletter. They're also available on the public meeting portal at Reno.Gov/meetings. So what I've included on the screen here is the HTML agenda. This is what I always recommend viewing. It'll open in your kind of browser tab as a new tab. If you're looking to find a printable version of the agenda, you'll just click on the agenda link next to HTML agenda. That's a PDF agenda that you can print. And then if you're ever looking for the attached items, so tonight, for example, all the presentations that you saw were attached to the specific item. They're not always attached in advance. It just depends on when we get them from the applicant or the guest presenter, but you can always find them there. All you have to do is click on any item with a paperclip icon. That'll open up the attachments. You can click on the little eye icon to just open it as a web-based version, or you can click on the cloud to download it to your device. Okay, so that'll bring us to our main training topic of the day, the board member reports, announcements, and discussion of future agenda items. I mentioned that these were just combined into a single item, but I'm gonna take a little bit of time to go over what can and should be brought up during this item. To start, this item is always for discussion only, which means the board cannot take action on anything brought up under this item. Since this item is also meant to inform future discussions, board members should avoid starting lengthy discussions under this item. Open meeting law requires us to make sure the public is aware of what the board plans to discuss. So if we get too deep into a topic under this item, you might see me interrupt and ask if we can save it for when the item is agendized. So what sorts of things can you bring up? Well, reports and announcements might include informing the board and members of the public of community events and other updates or the happenings of any other boards that you might serve on or follow. Within this item, board members can also suggest topics for business items to appear on future NAB agendas. So some examples are presentations that help provide feedback on development or updates from regional organizations like we had RTC or partners relevant to the work of the NAB. Like I mentioned at the start of the presentation, we're always working on ways to make your city government more accessible and transparent. Lastly, please note that all agenda items proposed by staff or board members must be approved by the council liaison to the NAB before they are added to an agenda. As NAB members, we all know that you are the city's eyes and ears in your respective communities. You know what your community is interested in, and in this role, you have the opportunity to bring things that matter to the table. So one way to do that is by attending meetings of other city boards and commissions, if you have the time and the interest. Just like the NAB, the city's other boards and commissions meet throughout the year to discuss all sorts of projects. So if you're interested in parks or public art or historical resources, there are boards, commissions, or committees for all of these topics. As a NAB member, you're encouraged to attend these meetings and report on their work at your NAB if you are so inclined. Members are also welcome to coordinate with outside organizations to bring guest presentations to the board. If you've attended a presentation that you believe would be beneficial for the NAB, you're more than welcome to initiate communication with them and see if they'd be interested in presenting to you. And then once you've confirmed their willingness to present, you can loop me in and I'll coordinate with the council member to get the item agendized. For my final slide on this topic, I think it'd be helpful to talk more about the difference between a future agenda item and a constituent issue. So to distinguish between the two, it can be helpful to focus on what the NAB is designed to do. Because NAB agenda items are for discussion and information sharing and not decision making. Items like presentations from RTC or other community partners allow the board to hear updates, ask questions, and learn about upcoming initiatives. These types of topics benefit the full board and the broader neighborhood. Constituent concerns, however, are often specific to an individual property, service request, or case, and discussion at the NAB may not lead to a solution. In these situations, residents will get faster and more effective support through Reno.Direct or by working with our council relations staff, and I'm happy to connect them with our council relations staff. We absolutely encourage neighbors to bring their concerns to the NAB anytime they need to so we can help guide them to the right place. The goal is always to ensure residents receive the quickest and most effective assistance possible. So with that, I just wanted to leave you with some resources. You can always contact me for any NAB questions and help coordinating presentations with our council relations liaison. For more information on board and commission meetings, you can visit the city's calendar for meeting information or go straight to the meeting portal. And then lastly, you can always contact Reno.Direct for service requests. That's all for tonight. Coming up, we have a council meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. here in Chambers. Next Wednesday, we have the City of Reno Planning Commission meeting with that Quilisi Ranch and Stan Lucas time extension on the agenda. And then we have our next step in the new year on January 13th. So with that, if anyone has any questions, I'm free. Go ahead.
Hearing no questions. You did a great job. Thanks, Callie.
Thank you.
All right. Well, this concludes our staff liaison update. And we'll go ahead and move on to item D, board, commission, committee member reports, announcements, and discussion of future agenda items.
Yeah, Cami LeRae for the record. It's perfect timing you have that on there because I did attend the Verdi Cab for this month. And it was really interesting. They expressed a lot of interest in having a Ward 5 Verdi Cab joint meeting. I guess before COVID, they used to have these things because there's just a lot of issues that sort of cross over county city in that area. For example, it even goes into transportation with getting a deer crossing kind of sign going to where the West Meadows development is. Just 3 were killed in the past month. So there's some acute things going on. So I would like to know, for a future agenda item, how we might address this to be able to reach out to the Verdi Cab to be more effective, to be able to collectively address some of the things that both the members of the NAB and the Verdi Cab might be noticing about the area out there.
I'll definitely check with staff and see how those meetings have worked in the past and see how we can foster some collaboration there.
Thank you.
We did a meeting out at the library out in Verdi probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and they actually have a huge turnout.
Yeah.
Usually, so it's a lot different, but it was nice.
Do we have anybody else? Hearing none. Let's see. One final item of the evening is public comment. Staff Liaison Callie, is there any final public comment?
I don't have anyone online. No public comment in Chambers.
All right.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, yes, you can.
Bryce Chisholm.
Set your 3 minutes.
I just want to complain real quick about the walls that are going up on the freeway. How much I hate them. And
They're blocking our view.
yeah, it just makes zero sense because there's like not even houses. It's like a canyon going through or along like the cemetery that's there, which was all bushes and trees and green. And now it's just these ginormous walls that are going to be like have frozen ice if it ever becomes winter. So I just want to put that on record that I absolutely despise those things. And yeah, thanks.
That's awesome. I appreciate you, Bryce. Thank you. Any other comments from anybody?
This is Lindsay Darrow. I'm just wondering can you remind me what the process is for like how we are making public comment? Is one person summarizing the public comment for all, like we have to make a comment as a group
So there's
on each of the 3 projects that we saw today. Is that correct?
So the resolution has a requirement for one of the board officers, so chair, vice chair, or secretary, to submit comment that just summarizes what was discussed here. It's not, I don't like this project. I don't think they should do this. So that's just a requirement for one person to just say, hey, this is what we talked about at the NAB. Maybe this is what general concerns were. This is how the applicant did or did not address our concerns. So that's that. If anyone on the board can submit public comment for anything at any point in time. So you don't have to feel restricted by that or feel like you absolutely have to. I hope that makes sense.
I did take notes on everybody's questions and the responses, but everybody has an open invitation to email me and let me know if there's any specific thoughts that you would like to include in the summary. And I'll be sure to make sure that that's included. My only request is that we do it in an efficient timeline within maybe 48 to 72 hours after our meeting. So that way I have all the information and I can get it submitted, and then I don't have somebody coming behind saying, oh, wait, I wanted to include this. So just time is of the essence, but I did take a lot of notes on all of your questions and concerns and then the responses from the projects that were presented to us today.
Yeah, I'll say that I think the best way to kind of gather information for the public comment is through that, just because I've had a chair email everyone and say, hey, send me your thoughts. And that could be a kind of a quorum issue with discussing things off the record. So kind of trying your best to gather information from the discussion as it happens or by, watching the recording afterward is what I recommend most. Yeah. And it's easier to, in my opinion, to just decide at the meeting and say, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, other than like having to coordinate after the fact. But whatever works.
All right. I'm now looking to adjourn our meeting. May I please get a motion to adjourn?
Corey Fredericks for the record. Actually, before we adjourn,
okay,
I'm wondering if I can put one more comment in for the B1, the Moose Ridge development. A lot of these developments are going into areas and they're taking out a lot of the native plants and stuff in those areas. And so I just wanted to add a comment that a lot of our bird species are starting to go away because they don't have the native plants that they need to nest in. If we could just add that in there. Corey Fredericks for the record. I motion to adjourn.
Jessica Bullard Nolan for the record. I second that motion.
Thank you for doing that while I was taking notes. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. This concludes the Ward 5 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting. Everybody have a great rest of your week. Thank you.